you were mentioning that, I mean, Canada is the only country that does not have drinking water regulations out of the G7 countries. And while Europe has much more stringent regulations for pesticides, Prime Minister Carney recently proposed that he would eliminate the current 5-year pesticide registration renewal process, which are changes that would dramatically reduce oversight of pesticide safety. And here in BC, we've got Premier Eby still insisting on spraying all of our forests with glyphosate.
Yes, that's coming back. What's really worrisome is that in the budget bill now, there's a proposal that has to do with pesticide assessment as well. And basically, they want to add a new, and I just found out about this, they want to add another consideration to the suite of things you have to think about when you're registering a pesticide. And up until now, Health Canada has kind of stuck to its sphere of competencies and has dealt with, environmental and public health and whether or not a pesticide actually works. And now the pesticide companies have convinced this federal government that they should add to this suite of considerations whether or not this is going to pose an economic hardship to stop using a particular pesticide. Well, like, how on earth are you going to do that kind of consideration? Economic hardship is going to be determined by the price of the pesticide that the pesticide companies have imposed. But what about the economic hardship of public health? What about the economic hardship associated with cancers to society and to individuals? And the other thing is that they are going to say that if the pesticide companies don't like a decision, they can go to the cabinet and have them reverse it. So as long as it doesn't affect public health, if it's some kind of environmental concern, then these MPs who have no competencies at all in pesticides are going to be overturning the decision of a regulator. And that's it in consideration right now. So if you don't like that idea, then it would be a good idea to let your MPs know.
Pretty scary. Thanks, Meg. If you can move to the next slide, Shannon, thanks. This was the regulations in Europe, and I'm going to let Meg explain this because I only know that it's better to have a limit of 5 rather than 1 when it comes to multiple pesticides. Please, Meg, you can explain this slide.
Well, the way it works in England and Wales is that if you've got 5 pesticides and they're all at different concentrations, say in water, that you take all of those pesticide concentrations and add them up, and that must be less than 0.5 microgram per liter. And it's got limits because some pesticides are more potent than others, but nevertheless, they've got a cap on, for all the pesticides, you can't have any more than this 0.5 microgram per liter. Whereas in Canada, they individual pesticides are in water. They're actually, a lot of them are capped at about 0.1 microgram per liter. But you can have a dozen pesticides or a large number of pesticides in a drinking water sample, as you mentioned already, Susan. And so if you've got 10 pesticides there at 0.1, then you've already got up to 1 microgram per liter. So it's a different way of calculating, and it's just obviously not as good because the more pesticides you have, the more you're allowed to pollute.
And the more they interact and the more they accumulate, the more dangerous they become. And so I want to make sure that the participants here today realize that Sebastian's research was not in a small rural community of 300 population. Sebastian's research was in the center of Montreal, one of Canada's biggest cities. and he found over 50 pesticides in the tap water, some of them at higher levels than were in the source waters. So very, very scary stuff. You can move to the next slide.